one, so people tend to feed out. But thank you for coming. My name is Paulina, and my symposium title is called Trace. The question I have for you all is, how are you going to leave your trace behind? And that's rhetorical, so please stay muted. So I first kind of started off with this theory, this kind of ideology that I had, that for as long as people have been traveling, but not even traveling, just kind of going from place to place, there's kind of always been this innate desire for us as people to want to leave a trace of ourselves behind and kind of want to trace our steps and in a way kind of like leave our legacy behind. And so this ideology was really intriguing to me because I wanted to know what kind of people, those people were, what kind of traces were they leaving behind? How did they execute this? What does it really mean exactly? And what were the positive and negative effects of how they executed it? And so I kind of wanted to explore this more. And so I started looking into different ways that people leave their traces behind. And one of the more common ways you probably see people will like write on the wall, they'll be like, I was here, or, like so-and-so was here. And it's really small, but it's a way that kind of people tend to do that. Or they'll carve their initials of them and their boyfriend and girlfriend on a tree with a heart around it and write the date of, the day that they picnicked in the woods, and, carving in a tree is supposed to commemorate that memory forever. And I've also seen people like literally carve into like buildings and like rocks and literally like go that far into it and to doodle and to write things and to say something and to leave something behind. And I just thought this was interesting because I see this literally everywhere I go. And I also looked into some other things more famously, for example, like the love locks in Paris. If you're not familiar, people, when they visit Paris, typically, with a boyfriend or girlfriend, they'll take a lock and like write their name or their boyfriend's name and then write the date. And kind of like what I was saying earlier, it kind of like locks, I don't know, they hope that it like locks their love in that place forever, or hey Marissa, can kind of like, keep that memory forever there. And because that space is important to them and that memory is important to them. And so that's another one. And then another one that I looked into is, if you're not super outdoorsy, you're probably not super familiar, but people will like do this stone stacking. So if you've ever been on a hike before, you can see that like people will take stones and stack them into these like miniature, beautiful sculpture type things. And it's kind of an odd way to essentially leave your trace, but I thought it was really creative and a really fun way to go even beyond like the two-dimensional, like, not writing, but they're really using the things around them to leave something behind in that space that they were in. And then, obviously I looked into graffiti because this is probably one of the more obvious ways that people will leave something behind of themselves. And I just found it really interesting because I saw how much effort that people put into this. I saw how much creativity went into it, even if it's just like signing your name. If it's just like, oh, my name is John, they'll like make this crazy like font, and like I've never really even understood how people do this, but they put so much creativity and thought into it, and it usually always gets taken down like the next day. And so, but it really proves my theory in the beginning that I was thinking of, people do want to be seen. They want their creativity to be seen, and they want their ideas to be seen, even if it's going to be taken down like the next day. And so looking back on all these different things that I had looked into, they're all really cool and really fun ways that people were like leaving their trace behind. But the problem that I had with all of them was that in some way they were just being destructive to the environment that they were in. So whether it's graffiti, it's ruining some property, it's always getting taken down, or whether you're carving into trees or like scratching your name into stone, or, whatever it is. Even the love locks in Paris, people had put so many locks on the bridge that it got so heavy that it started breaking the bridge. And so they had to remove all the locks because it was literally destroying like the architecture of Paris. And so it allowed me to ask myself, okay, how can I maximize this experience of tracing our legacy without being destructive to the environment? And so that's the question I wanted to solve. And that's what I was going to continue on with the process, discovering. And so, a little bit about me, the reason why I picked this is because I like to go around places, I like to travel. If you're familiar with the Enneagram and like your personality type, it's like a personality test. I'm a type 7, which is all about like new experiences and like new discoveries and like, the next thing, I gotta do the next thing, and never being content with like where you are. And so I knew I wanted to be about travel, and I've done so many of my projects about it already. So I was like, okay, this makes sense for my symposium. And then I started thinking about some imagery, and I was thinking about, I was really drawn to the imagery of like people using those boards that you'll put up on the wall and then pin like all the different places you've been. And I actually have one myself, just thought I would show. But I really liked the idea of pinning all the different places you've been, and that even people will like thread the different places that they've been. So it's like creating like a path of the journey that they've been on. And I always thought that was so cool. And then thinking back to my question in the beginning of how can I execute this project without being destructive to the environment, the best solution is to digitalize it. And so I knew I wanted to make an app. I knew I wanted to allow people to create their traces digitally. And I also love app designing. I like just have like recently loved just doing that and doing a lot of my projects on it. And so I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And so I started wireframing. And then tragedy struck when, I'm sure you've heard from every other senior, but COVID-19 happened, and it's mid-process. I'm still finalizing my concept. I'm still like figuring out how I'm going to execute this. And in the beginning of all the Corona stuff was spring break, and me and my siblings had a trip planned to go to Paris for spring break. And so it didn't seem that bad at the time, so we decided to still go. And so we went, and at the time, like I knew I was going to make an app, so I was taking footage. Like I was taking footage for AR. I was like doing my research. I was like looking at, the bridges, seeing how people were like doing it. And as you can see from the photo, like this was one of the bridges. They replaced the railings from the fence to like this window pane. I thought it was really cool that people still found a way to like kind of leave something behind, even though they weren't allowed to do the locks anymore. They were like writing on it and like marking it up. And as you can see, I single-handedly brought COVID back to America as it looks like I'm licking the pole, but I didn't actually do that. It's just a joke. But literally like 2 days after we had gotten back, they had announced the travel ban to Europe. And so we had like barely made it back in time. But I was grateful at the time because I was able to really experience what my app was about before like all this craziness happened. And so I was really grateful for that. And I was also really just grateful that like, because everything was digital that I was doing, my process wasn't very like hindered as many as other seniors were, who had like a lot of print stuff. So it didn't affect my process too much, but I did want to talk about it a little bit. And so then I started to think, okay, who's my audience? Who do I want this app to be for? I talked about, creating a community for people, but how do I do that? Like what are the kind of people that I want to do that for? It seems like a bit of a niche audience. And so this is Sarah, and she's pretty cool. She's a cool girl. She's in her late 20s. Some of her strong characteristics: she's creative, she's adventurous. Some of her lesser qualities, I should say: she's not super organized. She's somewhat tech savvy. She lives in LA. She's an interior designer. She likes to draw. She likes to travel. She likes hiking and design. And I really wanted to make someone that was really, a risk taker, someone that's curious, someone that wants to make new discoveries. And as I was like making this persona, I was like, wait, this is like literally me. Like I'm literally just making myself, but for non-narcissistic purposes, I'm just going to call her Sarah. So that's basically how that went. But the important thing about making her was that I really wanted to create a community for people like Sarah to meet other people like herself and who all would want to be a part of a community similar to each other, with people similar to each other. And so then Sarah is planning on traveling this summer. She wants to go places, and so she downloads Trace, which is my app. And then now I'm going to show like a little walkthrough of the app. How do you move this bar? I hate this thing. The stupid bar's in the way. Okay, so I'm going to do a little walkthrough of the app. So this is the homepage, and you can see it's like the world galleries. You can see it gives you suggestions of like popular traces, popular tracers, new and noteworthy people, and you have the search bar, you have the menu bar, and say Sarah's in Paris right now and she wants to create a trace. So she clicks the AR and she takes her photo, and then she has three options. She can add a link, she can create a tip, or she can draw something. So she wants to draw something. She creates this cool, like, oh, go this way, like there's something cool over here, in a non-creepy way. And she writes something kind of cool on the wall, and maybe she's gonna make more traces down the street, but she wants to put one right here. So then she can create that. And then, for example, say Sarah also wants to find other traces. So she wants to see what other people in Paris have done and created. She's gonna click this, and she was like, all right, this is something that John's made. I'm gonna see what he's made on, like, with him, kind of like be on the journey with him, and see what he's created on the path that he's created it. And so she's like, yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm gonna save that. And then she's like, all right, I'm gonna check out this John guy. He seems pretty cool. And so you can go and see his profile. So this profile, all the work that he's created, these popular galleries. You can see what he's done on a map. So for example, if you want to like see everything's done, but you want the visual effect of like, searching on a map, I thought that feature was pretty important. And so you can click on a pin, and that's something that he's created. And then you're like, all right, I'll give him a follow. He seems pretty cool. Then you exit out, and then some other features I'll walk through. There's my profile, and then you have the saved galleries feature. So this is, anything that she's seen on the app that she's inspired by. And I think that's kind of an important part of the app, is to find inspiration, because these people, my audience, really want to be inspired. And I think they're always finding the next thing, and they always want to know what the next experience is. And they're always easily inspired, because I know that's me. So it's a way to kind of save these in your gallery. And then this is another search function of just being able to search like on a map. So it's a trace finder, so you can search a name, you can search a person, you can, search this is a gallery. So I'm going to search Matthew, that's him. And so that's another function to search for people. And so that's a little walkthrough of my app. And then now I'm going to show what, if you've seen my video, you've probably seen this, but it's the other perspective of things. So it's, instead of creating a trace, you want to find a trace, what that perspective looks like. I took out the music because it's a bit distracting, but this is what it would look like if you are looking for a trace and you find one. My animating is very poor, but it would say like, hey, like, fun fact, if you give security Bob a croissant, like, he'll let you in for free. And it's kind of like a dumb thing, but it's, it's something cool if you're mid-experience and you're looking for these things. And then here's another example. This one's just a drawing. And this is me looking dumb walking down Paris like this. And they load the trace, and it's just a stupid drawing of a penguin. It's like, Paul the penguin was here. And then, you can click on the profile at the bottom, and you can see their profile as well if you want to do it that way. And so that is that perspective. Oh no. Okay. So now taking a bit of a closer look at some of the features. I talked about this a little bit. I could probably, yes, the World Gallery, the reason I really wanted, there's a lot of debate on whether to make this one when you open the app, goes straight to AR or to this exploration page. But I really wanted to make it go to the exploration page because it's all about discovery. And then the profile page, I thought was really important because I talk a lot about creating community, and it really lends itself to that idea of connecting on a more like personal, like intimate level. And then I have the digital journey, which I kind of explained a little bit, but I thought it was really important to allow you to like digitally trace like people's traces like with them on the path, and that visual aspect was important. So now I'm going to quickly go over the different types of traces. So how are people going to actually use this app? So I talked about the features, but how are people actually going to use it? And what are some different like cool creative ways that they can? So one thing that you can do is offer like tips and tricks of like, you know, things in that culture. So it might be kind of dumb, but like, you know, whatever you want to share. So on the right, for example, it's, you know, I speak a little Chinese, so it's a small brag, but it's, you know, he's like, ni hao, these are some restaurants that I like, you know, check it out. And it doesn't even have to be a very big, important thing, which is why I really wanted to make it separate from like TripAdvisor or like any of those sites that are like, you know, generic public information on generic a public opinion. You know, this is like what the mass likes to do. It's very touristy. The screen on the left, it's like, hey, this place has really good coffee on like level 12, or, and it could say like, you know, if you talk to this person, you compliment her hair, like she'll give you free coffee, or, you know, something like that. It can be as small as that to as big as, you know, anything you want. And then another aspect I wanted to add was being able to add like social links. So if you take a photo on the left, you can see like this person like took a photo in Ireland, and they added their Instagram link. So you can click on that and then go to their Instagram and kind of get a different perspective on that space that you both were in. And I really wanted Trace to be a platform that connects you to other platforms, and really create that community beyond just the community of Trace on the app itself. And then the last thing it does is you can see a change in that space over time. So in the picture on the right, this person is pointing at a trace, and you know the sky is kind of like decent, and it's like probably mid-January. But then they look at the trace someone's done, and they see that this person took this photo back in August, and they're like, oh, this is what it's like in this spot, like in August. Like, this is what you can see. Like there's a balloon festival. It's like it's lit. People are having fun, and it kind of opens that door to seeing this same experience, but at a different point in time. And so I felt that was pretty important to do. And so those are everything. That's everything that I had. And thank you for coming. How do I?